Have you ever sat quietly by the window and wondered how the years pass so quickly? One day you're raising a family or building a career, and the next, you're watching the sunset with more wisdom than you ever thought you'd carry. As we age, our bodies speak to us in quieter ways, some comforting, others surprising. But what if certain changes you've noticed lately are actually signs of healthy aging? Or even clues that you might live a long, vibrant life? In today's video, we're going to explore 7 gentle but powerful signs that may reveal your body is aging well, perhaps even preparing you for a longer, more fulfilling journey ahead. These aren't medical warnings, but subtle signals shared by experts in senior wellness and supported by countless real-life stories. So, if you've ever wondered what it really means to age gracefully, stay with me until the end. One of the signs often overlooked, even by professionals, might surprise you in the best possible way. Of all the subtle ways our bodies change as we grow older, perhaps none is more quietly revealing than the shift in how we sleep. It often begins gradually falling asleep earlier in the evening, waking in the middle of the night, or napping more during the day. Many people simply chalk it up to aging. But when an older adult starts sleeping more than 15 hours a day, or experiences long nights of restlessness, it might be something deeper, something the body is gently trying to say. For those of us in the world of senior wellness, this change in sleep isn't just about getting tired more easily. It can signal a deeper transformation happening within. Experts from places like Harvard Medical School have observed that, in the final months of life, the body naturally begins to conserve energy. It gradually shifts focus towards sustaining essential functions like heart and lung activity, while letting go of less vital routines, such as active digestion or high alertness during the day. The brain's natural rhythm, the circadian clock that tells us when to sleep and wake, can start to break down, leading to long periods of drowsiness followed by unexpected bursts of nighttime wakefulness. It's not always easy to notice these shifts right away. They unfold over weeks, sometimes months. Take Harold, for example, a retired teacher from Tennessee who loved watching his favorite afternoon game shows. Slowly, his family noticed he was dozing through them more often. Eventually, he was sleeping nearly 18 hours a day, but at night, he'd be wide awake, wandering through the house or staring quietly out the window. His daughter thought he was just bored, but after a checkup, doctors gently explained that Harold's body was moving into its natural end-of-life phase. Recognizing these changes in sleep can help families prepare in quiet but meaningful ways, not out of fear, but out of love and understanding. Adjusting routines, creating a more peaceful nighttime environment, and simply sitting with a loved one during a wakeful hour can bring more comfort than we often realize. In the world of senior living, small changes like dimming the lights earlier in the evening or reducing noise during the day can support both the person sleeping and the caregivers who stay by their side. Another way to stay in tune is by keeping a simple daily log, whether in a notebook or on a phone app. Jotting down how many hours your loved one sleeps during the day versus at night can reveal patterns that might otherwise be missed. If you see consistent changes over a week or more, it may be time to check in with a healthcare provider, not because there's necessarily something wrong, but because understanding what's happening allows for better support and planning. This awareness doesn't mean giving up hope. On the contrary, it's a chance to be present, to focus on comfort, on gentleness, and on meaningful time together. It's an opportunity to lean into what matters most when time becomes more precious. So if you've noticed a loved one sleeping far more or far less than usual, consider it a quiet nudge to pause, reflect, and perhaps have a compassionate conversation with a doctor. With patience and understanding, you can walk this chapter together, guided not by fear, but by care. After all, senior health tips aren't just about what helps us live longer. They're about what helps us live well, especially when time feels tender. Sometimes, the changes we notice aren't loud or sudden. They're quiet, almost imperceptible at first. One of the most overlooked of these is the gradual loss of appetite in an older loved one. Maybe they used to light up at the sight of their favorite dish. Maybe Sunday dinners were once the highlight of the week. But now, the same meals sit untouched, and weight seems to melt away without any effort at all. At first, it's easy to assume it's just part of getting older, but there may be more behind it than we think. As part of the natural winding down of the body in its final months, many seniors begin to lose interest in food, not because they're stubborn or depressed, but because their body is quietly adjusting its priorities. The digestive system starts to slow, and the energy once used for breaking down food is now redirected to essential functions. Doctors and hospice specialists have seen this happen again and again, and it's not something to fear. Instead, it's something to understand and gently support. Think of Ethel, a grandmother from Michigan who never missed a family meal in over 60 years. Her homemade apple pie was legendary, but one day, she began eating just a few bites, and then setting her fork down. She no longer asked for dessert. Within 2 months, she had lost 15 pounds without any intention of dieting. Her family tried to encourage her to eat more, worried that she was giving up. but medical professionals later explained that her body was naturally transitioning, and what she needed most in that moment wasn't more calories, it was more comfort, more peace, more understanding. In the world of senior wellness, this shift in appetite is seen not as a problem to be fixed, but a cue to gently shift focus. Instead of insisting on full meals or specific nutritional targets, caregivers and families can offer small portions of comforting foods, items that bring joy or familiarity, without pressure. A single spoonful of warm soup, a bite of fresh fruit, or even just the scent of a favorite dish might bring comfort, even if not consumed. Keeping a simple food journal can be helpful, just noting what your loved one eats each day and how much. Over time, this can reveal meaningful trends that are worth sharing with a healthcare provider. If someone loses 10 pounds or more without trying, that's a sign worth paying attention to, not because it's something to fight, but because it helps everyone involved better understand how to support their journey with kindness and respect. It's important to remember, forcing someone to eat when they no longer want to may actually cause discomfort. Instead, a calm presence at the table, gentle encouragement, and letting go of expectations around mealtime can mean everything. In this season of life, nourishment often looks more like emotional connection than full plates. So if you notice that a loved one has stopped asking about their favorite meals, or if their clothes suddenly seem looser, pause and reflect. In the space of senior living, understanding these changes can bring more peace than worry. And while it's always wise to check in with a doctor, it's equally important to listen with heart, with patience, and with love. After all, not every chapter is about doing more. Sometimes, it's about simply being there. As the seasons of life shift, many of us find comfort in the familiar voices of those we love, family calls, neighborhood visits, or just the simple joy of hearing laughter in the room. That's why it can feel unsettling when someone who was once so engaged begins to pull away. They might stop returning phone calls, decline invitations, or quietly distance themselves from the social connections that once brought them joy. At first glance, it might seem like a phase, or perhaps even a sign of sadness. But in many cases, it's something deeper and far more natural unfolding quietly. Among the subtle signs that a person may be entering life's final chapter is a gradual withdrawal from social interaction. According to professionals in senior wellness and palliative care, this isn't about rejection or resentment. Rather, it's a natural turning inward, a gentle psychological shift that allows individuals to prepare emotionally and spiritually for what's ahead. They begin to let go of their attachments to the outside world, often without explanation, as part of a peaceful and meaningful process. Imagine someone like Franklin, a retired mechanic from Ohio who never missed his grandson's baseball games and played poker with his friends every Friday night for over 2 decades. One spring, he suddenly began declining game nights. He stopped picking up the phone when his sister called, and family members started to worry. Was he angry? Was something wrong? 6 months later, after a medical evaluation, it became clear his body and mind were preparing for the end of life. His withdrawal had been a quiet signal all along. It's easy to misinterpret these changes. Loved ones may feel hurt or confused, wondering what they did wrong. But understanding that this type of social withdrawal is part of a natural process can shift the entire perspective. It allows family and friends to replace feelings of rejection with compassion. Instead of pushing for more interaction, they can offer simple, quiet presence, perhaps sitting together for a few minutes or leaving a kind note, knowing that even small gestures matter deeply. In the context of senior living, professionals often encourage families to gently support, rather than resist, this new rhythm. It's okay if your loved one no longer wants to attend group gatherings or host Sunday dinners. What they may need most is peace, space, and the freedom to choose moments of connection on their own terms. Offering low-pressure opportunities like a brief chat on the porch or a soft greeting during a visit can go a long way in honoring their pace. Being present without expectation is a beautiful form of support. It says, "I'm here," without saying a word, and it helps create a sense of safety, dignity, and emotional ease for someone whose energy may now be focused inward rather than outward. If you've noticed someone close to you becoming more withdrawn lately, take a moment to reflect. Consider that it might not be a sign of emotional distance, but a natural response to the deeper transitions taking place. And as always, if you're unsure, speaking with a healthcare provider can bring clarity and peace of mind. Ultimately, honoring this phase is one of the most loving things we can do. In a world that often values doing and achieving, it's a quiet reminder that simply being present, being gentle, being kind is sometimes the greatest gift we can offer. These are the moments where senior health tips are less about action and more about understanding the quiet language of the heart. There's something tender about watching a loved one drift between clarity and confusion. At times, they may seem fully present, remembering birthdays, sharing stories, even offering advice. Then suddenly, in the same breath, they might speak to someone who's no longer here. They might talk to a late spouse, recall a vivid dream, or describe seeing a parent long gone. To those around them, it can be surprising or even unsettling. But in many cases, these moments aren't signs of illness. They're part of something deeper, more meaningful. As people approach the final stages of life, the mind can begin to shift in subtle yet powerful ways. These changes in awareness, like speaking to the deceased or experiencing vivid dreams, are more common than we might think. And according to experts in senior wellness and hospice care, they often represent a natural part of the transition, not something to fear or fix. The brain, responding to changes in oxygen flow and metabolism, begins to process reality differently. For many, it's not just confusion, it's a quiet crossing into something more reflective, perhaps even spiritual. Take Vernon, a retired postman from Florida, who had always been grounded and sharp. In his final months, he began having what his family first called odd moments. He would speak softly to his late wife, Martha, as if she were sitting right beside him. He described what she was wearing, what she was saying, even what she wanted him to pass along to their children. At first, his family worried was this dementia. But in between these episodes, Vernon was still aware of current events and remembered daily details clearly. Doctors later explained that these conversations were part of a natural end-of-life process, not a mental illness, but a gentle step into a different kind of awareness. Moments like these can be emotional for families. They might bring tears, wonder, or uncertainty. But what matters most is how we choose to respond. In the world of senior living, professionals remind us that it's more helpful to listen with compassion than to correct. Arguing or dismissing these experiences rarely brings comfort. Instead, staying calm and present, perhaps just holding a hand or responding with a soft, "Tell me more," can ease the emotional space for everyone involved. It's also helpful to quietly document what you observe. Noting when these experiences happen, what's said, and how your loved one behaves afterward can give doctors important insights. And while these moments don't always require intervention, sharing them with a healthcare provider ensures your loved one receives care that honors their full experience. Body, mind, and spirit. If someone close to you starts seeing or speaking to those who've passed on, know that you're not alone and neither are they. These moments, as strange as they may seem, are often deeply comforting to the person experiencing them. In fact, research shows that many find peace through these visions, as if loved ones are guiding them gently home. Above all, this phase invites us to slow down and listen not just with our ears, but with our hearts. Because in the quiet space between reality and memory, there is often something sacred happening. And sometimes, the greatest act of love is simply to be there, bearing witness. So if you ever find yourself in this space, remember that compassion matters more than explanation. And when in doubt, seek gentle guidance from a doctor or care provider. After all, senior health tips are not just about physical wellness, but about nurturing the emotional and spiritual journey of growing older. 2. There's a quiet kind of worry that settles in when someone who once moved with ease begins to struggle with even the simplest tasks. Maybe it starts with needing help out of a favorite chair, or feeling winded after walking just a few steps. Perhaps their hands tremble while lifting a cup of coffee, or a short trip to the mailbox suddenly feels too far. It's easy to wonder, are they just tired today? Or is something more happening beneath the surface? As the body approaches its final chapter, one of the most noticeable changes is a sharp decline in strength and mobility. Unlike the slow, steady changes that come with aging, this kind of weakness tends to progress quickly. In the space of just a few weeks or months, someone who is mostly independent may begin needing help with dressing, bathing, or standing. According to experts in senior wellness, this isn't simply about getting old, it's about the body naturally redirecting its energy to essential functions, gradually letting go of what it no longer has the strength to support. Carmen, a widow from Texas, tended her small backyard garden every morning and took pride in doing things herself. But one spring, her daughter noticed something had changed. Carmen couldn't stand up from her recliner without help. She struggled to lift her watering can. At first, her family thought she just needed better nutrition, or maybe a bit of exercise. But after a gentle medical consultation, they learned that Carmen's body was entering its final phase, using what energy remained to maintain vital organs, not muscle movement. This shift can feel confusing or even frustrating for loved ones. We want to help, but we may not understand what kind of help is truly needed. That's why in senior living, recognizing the difference between temporary fatigue and end-of-life physical decline is so important. It allows us to shift our focus from encouraging more activity to creating safer, more supportive environments that honor the body's changing needs. Small adjustments can make a world of difference. Removing fall hazards, installing grab bars, adding shower chairs, or providing walkers can bring both physical safety and emotional reassurance. More importantly, giving permission, spoken or unspoken, for a loved one to ask for help without guilt can be one of the kindest gifts we offer. It's also essential to adjust our own expectations. The person you love may no longer be able to do what they once could, and that's okay. Instead of focusing on what's been lost, we can celebrate what still brings them peace, whether it's sitting together in the sunlight or simply holding hands in silence. As any seasoned caregiver knows, comfort and dignity go hand in hand. If you've noticed a sharp change in a loved one's mobility, it's worth observing closely and reaching out to a doctor if you feel uncertain. Sometimes, just knowing what's happening can bring tremendous clarity and calm. Because senior health tips aren't just about keeping the body strong, they're about helping it feel safe, respected, and supported through every state. In the end, it's not about forcing strength. It's about honoring where the body is and choosing compassion over expectation. Sometimes, it's not what's said, but what's heard in the silence that stays with us. For caregivers and loved ones, one of the most tender and telling moments is when a familiar breathing pattern begins to change. Maybe it's a new rhythm, rapid breaths, followed by long pauses, or a shallow, labored sound during rest. These changes often appear quietly at first, but they can speak volumes about what the body is going through. In the later stages of life, shifts in breathing are more than just physical responses. They reflect the body's natural adjustment as energy and function begin to wane. According to palliative care specialists and senior wellness professionals, changes like irregular breathing, gasping, or a noticeable difference in the sound or pace of breath are not always signs of distress. They can be part of the body's peaceful transition. The heart and lungs, no longer working at full strength, find their own rhythms as they conserve energy and move toward rest. Raymond, a retired railroad worker from Georgia, was always steady and strong. But one afternoon, his wife noticed he had started breathing in short, quick bursts, then pausing for what felt like long stretches. It happened most often during his naps. At first, she thought he was dreaming, but over time, the pattern continued. With quiet concern, she spoke to his doctor, who gently explained that Raymond's body was simply entering a new stage, one where comfort, not correction, was the priority. In moments like these, families often feel uncertain. Should we call for help? Is this an emergency? The instinct to fix or react is completely natural. But in many cases, understanding that these breathing changes are part of the body's gentle slowing down can bring more peace than panic. Within the world of senior living, the focus often shifts from intervention to comfort, offering calm presence, soft reassurance, and support in the ways that matter most. Simple things can make a big difference. Propping pillows to support easier breathing, keeping the room cool and quiet, or just sitting nearby so your loved one doesn't feel alone. And while these changes can feel emotionally heavy, they also open a space for deeper connection, reminding us to listen not just with our ears, but with our hearts. If you notice new breathing patterns in someone close to you, take note of what you hear and how often it occurs, jotting down a few observations like time of day, duration, or how your loved one appears during the episode can be incredibly helpful for a healthcare provider. And if you're ever unsure, reaching out to a doctor for gentle guidance is always a good step. More than anything, these moments remind us to slow down and simply be there. Because sometimes, the greatest comfort comes not from what we say, but from the quiet reassurance of presence. And in senior health tips that truly matter, dignity, peace, and understanding always lead the way. As time gently slows, many older adults begin to reflect more deeply on the lives they've lived, the choices made, the stories left untold, and the people they've loved along the way. In these quiet moments, there often comes a strong, sometimes urgent desire to put things in order. It might begin with giving away a cherished possession, writing a heartfelt letter, or reaching out to someone from the past. These gestures, though small on the surface, carry deep emotional weight. This need to settle unfinished business is something many hospice professionals recognize as a meaningful part of the end-of-life journey. It's not just about legal paperwork or sorting through keepsakes. It's about finding peace. In senior wellness and end-of-life care, this desire is seen as a natural, healthy step away of making room emotionally and spiritually for the next phase. Lawrence, a woodworker from Nevada, was never one to dwell on the past. But one morning, seemingly out of the blue, he asked his daughter to help him call his estranged brother. They hadn't spoken in over 15 years. The call was short, quiet, and tearful. Later that week, Lawrence began giving away his tools to family members and neighbors, carefully choosing who should receive what and explaining why. At first, his family thought he was feeling down. But in truth, Lawrence was preparing in the most heartfelt way he knew how, by making sure everything that mattered to him found a meaningful place. For families, these actions can be confusing or even painful. It might seem like giving up, or stir fears about what's coming next. But in the space of senior living, honoring these choices can actually bring a great sense of comfort to both the person preparing and the loved ones who remain. Whether it's a long overdue apology, a story that needs to be shared, or a simple item passed on with love, these final gestures often become treasured memories. The most important thing we can do is listen with patience and without judgment. Support their wishes, help make the calls, write the notes, or wrap the gifts. Even if some of it seems out of character, try to understand that these efforts aren't about things, they're about meaning, legacy, and love. If you're witnessing this in someone close to you, know that it's not something to fear. It's something to hold gently, And if questions arise, it's always okay to talk to a doctor or care team for guidance. In the world of senior health tips, not everything is about medicine or mobility. Sometimes, the deepest healing comes from finishing a story well. And sometimes, all someone needs is a hand to hold while they do it. As we grow older, life begins to speak to us in quieter ways. Through gentle shifts and subtle signs, our bodies and hearts often tell us what words cannot. Understanding these changes isn't about fear, it's about honoring the journey and making each day count in its own meaningful way. You are not alone on this path. With compassion, awareness, and the wisdom you've gathered over the years, you can navigate even the most delicate moments with grace. This is what senior wellness is truly about: living fully, living kindly, and staying connected to what matters most. So take a deep breath, hold close the people and memories you treasure, and keep showing up for each day with openness. Life still has beautiful things to offer. If you're still watching and felt comfort or clarity from this video, please comment 9 below to let me know you're here. Here's to gentle strength and a life well lived, senior living at its finest.